Early life and education. Fidel Castro was born into a middle-class family in Biran, Cuba, in 1926. His father was a wealthy sugar plantation owner, and his mother was a maid who worked on the same plantation. Growing up, Castro was influenced by his family's background and early exposure to socialist ideologies. During his education at the University of Havana, Castro became involved in student activism and protests against the government of then-President Fulgencio Batista. He was also inspired by the teachings of Marxist thinkers and revolutionaries, which fueled his passion for social justice and equality. Castro's family background and education played a significant role in shaping his beliefs and values, ultimately leading him to become a key figure in the Cuban Revolution and the establishment of a communist government in Cuba. Political awakening. Fidel Castro began his anti-Batista activities during his early political awakening, where he delivered passionate speeches denouncing the oppressive regime. He soon joined rebellious movements, such as the July 26 movement, which aimed to overthrow Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista. Castro's involvement in these activities marked the beginning of his revolutionary journey towards leading a successful revolution in Cuba. The Cuban Revolution. Fidel Castro's rise as a guerrilla leader began in the 1950s as he led a group of revolutionaries in a successful campaign to overthrow the Cuban dictator, Fulgencio Batista. Castro's strategic use of guerrilla tactics and his charisma helped rally support from the Cuban people, leading to the eventual defeat of Batista's forces. The Cuban Revolution not only resulted in Castro becoming the Prime Minister of Cuba in 1959, but also marked a turning point in Cuban history, setting the stage for the establishment of a socialist state under Castro's leadership. Consolidation of power. After successfully overthrowing the Cuban government in 1959, Fidel Castro began implementing measures to transform Cuba into a communist state. Castro nationalized industries such as sugar production and confiscated land owned by wealthy individuals, redistributing it to farmers. He established close ties with the Soviet Union and adopted socialist policies such as universal healthcare and education. In 1961, Castro officially declared that Cuba was a socialist republic and began aligning the country with other communist nations. Despite facing backlash from the United States and other Western countries, Castro remained determined to solidify communism in Cuba, effectively consolidating his power as the revolutionary leader of the nation. Bay of Pigs and Cuban Missile Crisis. Fidel Castro's fierce opposition to U.S. influence led to the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, a failed attempt by the CIA to overthrow his government. Castro's defiance further escalated Cold War tensions between the US and the Soviet Union. In 1962, Castro allowed the Soviet Union to place nuclear missiles in Cuba, resulting in the Cuban Missile Crisis. This event brought the world to the brink of nuclear war and highlighted Castro's willingness to align with the Soviet Union against the US. Castro's role in these Cold War flashpoints solidified his reputation as a defiant revolutionary leader who stood up to American imperialism and played a key role in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the era. Later years and legacy. After nearly 50 years of leading Cuba, Fidel Castro retired from his role as the country's president in 2008. His impact on Cuba was immense, as he implemented socialist policies that drastically changed the country's economy and society. Despite facing criticism from the international community, Castro remained a revered figure in Cuba for his role in the Cuban Revolution and his efforts to improve healthcare and education for all citizens. His retirement marked the end of an era in Cuban history, but his legacy as a revolutionary leader continues to shape the country to this day.